Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video is way long overdue. I think I actually first did this video probably nearly 2 years ago now, and since then there has been an insane amount of new foundation launches, and I've probably tried quite a few of them, a fair few, and in that time I have done foundation reviews for certain products and all sorts, but I kind of just wanted to get together in one video my favorite foundations that cater to warm, brown, dark, you name it, people of color, skin tones. Okay, so guys, all of these foundations that I am telling you about are brands that I feel cater to people of color. So these are brands that have got large shade ranges, and I feel like a lot of people could probably go to any one of these brands and probably try and find their shade. Obviously I can only tell you about the shade that I am and what works for me, but I know that these are brands that cater to a lot of different skin tones, which is amazing. And I also feel like a lot of brands, they do light and dark, and they'll just do a few middle shades, obviously because they have to get from light to dark. But I feel like brands make a point of doing lots of light shades and dark shades, which they should, but then they just skip out a lot of the middle shades, like a lot of the middle shades and all of the undertones that are involved in that middle category. So that is why I have searched high and low for these kind of foundations and brands to come and tell you all about them. Wait, one last thing. I just want to let you know that all of these foundations that I am mentioning, I actually have full in-depth reviews and demos on all of them, so I will link them all for you down below in the description box if you want to know or see more about each foundation. Okay, so the first one I have to mention, and this is in no particular order, but I'm just gravitating towards it. It's the NARS Natural Radiant Longwear Foundation. This is actually one of their newest foundations that they brought out, and they actually extended their shade range, which is amazing. NARS actually already had a really large shade range with their Sheer Glow and then the Luminous Weightless Foundation, which I also really like, but they actually extended their shade range when they brought out this foundation right here, and there's definitely more middle shades, which I found really helpful and useful. Voila, here we have my perfect shade in a bottle. So I am in the shade Valencia. I absolutely love this foundation. I think you guys have seen me use it so many times. It is so beautiful. Although I do have an oily skin, I feel like this foundation still works for me, and it still gives me a really nice, like, healthy, glowy, dewy look without making me look oily. I also feel like this foundation is super long wearing. It gives you a really nice, like, satin skin-like finish, and you can definitely build this foundation up to be like a more fuller coverage. I'd say this foundation is in between a medium to full coverage. You can totally sheer it out if you wish to, and like I said, you can build it up. This is definitely one of my favorite foundations, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be in this video. Next up, I want to mention the Cover FX Power Play Foundation. I think this foundation comes out in 40 shades, I believe, off the top of my head, don't quote me, but I'm sure it is a huge shade range, so yeah. And then there's also olive undertones, which, yes, that just blows my mind when brands cater to olive undertones. Thank you. Thanks, Cover FX, hooking a sister up. They actually have like a whole olive section, which is amazing. Not just like one or two, like, oh, here's an olive shade in the middle. No, there's a few, so it's great. So I actually am the shade G+50 in this foundation, and when I am tanned, I use G+60. The plus is for the olive tone girls. G stands for golden, so I'm golden olive. Clearly, if you don't have an olive undertone and you're just golden, then you're just G50 or G60 or whatever. If you're pink, then it's P. Neutral, then it's N. Yes. Honestly, I really think there is something for everyone with Cover FX. Genuinely, how can you not find your shade? Besides from loving up the shade of this foundation, I obviously really love how this foundation works and goes on, and the formula. This foundation is slightly more of a thicker consistency. I would definitely say it's leaning towards the full coverage side, although it is still very buildable, which I like. It also doesn't feel super heavy on the skin, but you get the coverage, which is great. It's like a satin matte finish, but it is definitely going to help keep your oils at bay. So another fantastic foundation. The next foundation I just have to mention is the Jouer Essential High Coverage Cream Foundation. I use this in the shade Bronzed. Again, a really large shade range with these foundations, so that is great. The shade of this foundation matches me beautifully. This foundation is actually an oil-free foundation and it gives you a matte finish. It's definitely on the full coverage side, but without being heavy at all. When I tell you I've never ever felt a foundation like this, I mean I've never ever felt a foundation like this. This foundation, I don't know what the hell is in here. Well, it says hyaluronic acid, but I don't know if it's that. This goes on like silk. This is like such a dreamy, beautiful foundation to apply. I cannot even, like, I can't compare this to any other foundation. Like, the way it goes on is just silky. The coverage is insane without being heavy, and like I said, it has got hyaluronic acid in there, so it's got some nice hydrating properties for your skin, but it's still oil free, gonna keep you nice and matte. And I just love how long wearing this foundation is as well. Honestly, the thing that blows me away with this foundation is just how it goes on, and then the pigmentation that you get with it, and of course the shade. It's just such a dreamy foundation. It definitely for me is a luxury kind of product, really nice and high end. I mean, just look at the packaging, for God's sake. It's just lovely. The only downfall with this is that you only get 20 mils of product, when with any of the other foundations you get, there's 35 mils in Cover FX, and then there's 30 mils in the NARS, and 30 mils is definitely the average amount that you would get in most foundations. So I feel like 20 mils, a whole 10 mils under, is quite a lot to skip out on. So yeah, that's just one thing to bear in mind. However, I guess this foundation is going to go a long way considering how full coverage it is, but still it's just annoying that it's 20 mil and yeah, but I had to tell you about it. Another foundation I'm a huge fan of is the Hourglass Vanish Stick Foundation. This is honestly such a beautiful product. I have this in the shade Golden Tan, and it's the only stick foundation out of all of the ones I'm showing you, and it's definitely my most favorite foundation stick ever. It's just the best. Not only is it super sleek in terms of packaging, the foundation itself goes on like an absolute dream. It's really easily blendable. It blends out within seconds. You don't have to work too hard with this product. It gives you such a nice finish to your skin. Again, a matte finish, but more satin skin-like. Every time I wear this foundation, I always get compliments, and people always ask me, what foundation are you wearing? Because it honestly makes your skin look so flawless, but in the most light and effortless way ever. Out of all of the foundations though, I would probably say this one is still long wearing, but it just doesn't last as long as some of the others, just because it is a stick foundation, and I always find that stick foundations are slightly creamier and they have a little bit more slip to them, so therefore they don't last as long. But it doesn't separate, it doesn't look hideous. It's just, for me with my oily skin, I find that I do get a little bit oily wearing this foundation after a certain period of time. So definitely check this one out if you need a stick foundation. My penultimate foundation that I have to mention, and it would be rude not to, is the Fenty Beauty foundation. As you know, this came out in a huge shade range. Everyone went crazy over it. It was mind-blowing that a new beauty brand is starting up with that amount of shades. You know, you've got brands that have been in business on the scene for years and years and years. I'm not going to mention any names, YSL, and they still are bringing out tiny shade ranges. And I believe Rihanna and Fenty is really trying to do the whole inclusivity thing, and I am here for it, girl. I am here for it. So I have this in the shade 300. This foundation, unlike any of the others that I've shown you, this one does oxidize slightly. This foundation is probably one of the most long wearing foundations that I own. Like, if you want your foundation to stay put for the whole day, put Fenty on. Also, if you want your foundation to stay matte for the whole day, put Fenty on. Like I said, I do have a slightly oily skin, more so in the T-zone, so I do like my foundations to be more on the matte side. This definitely isn't a satin matte finish like the others I've shown you. This is definitely a matte foundation. This has got like a proper matte finish, but it's not super drying on the skin, and and I actually love how this looks. It gives you such a nice flawless finish to your skin. Also, you get 32 mils of product in this. This foundation is actually super lightweight and quite runny, but because it's such high coverage, it's definitely on the full coverage side. It doesn't feel heavy, sit cakey, or any of that. Definitely don't sleep on Fenty foundations. It is 100% a good one, and yeah, I love it. And finally, another foundation that I just had to mention in this video, because again, it would be rude not to when they've made so much effort to try and include so many different shades and people, and it is none other than Huda Beauty, the Faux Filter Foundation. Again, another foundation that came out in so many shades, which is great. I'm not gonna lie, this was actually a pain in the ass to try and find my shade at first, because this foundation does oxidize quite a bit, and I did actually have to go through a few different shades. I think I've done a full in-depth review of this foundation, but I had a different shade. I had two different shades, and then finally I got this one. So I'm the shade Baklava, which is 340G, and yeah, this is actually my perfect shade from this foundation range. If you want matte foundation, this is it. If you want flawless, literally Instagram filter face, matte skin, this is your foundation. I would say that this is quite a thick consistency, very, very high coverage. Honestly, you do not even need a full pump. Another thing about this foundation, and I feel like I always mention this, is that it does have a scent. It's got like a slightly perfumed scent. For some people, it might not bother you. For me, I personally don't like a scent in my foundation. It's not the worst smell. It's like perfume and it's all rosy, but I personally just don't like a scent in my foundation. But hey, I'm used to it, and the product is actually very nice, so I can just ignore that, you know. You actually get 35 mils of product in this foundation, so for the price you're paying, this foundation is going to take you a long way, especially since, like I said, you don't even need too much of it. I would say if you have dry skin, maybe avoid this foundation, just because I can see how it might cling to any dry areas and it could possibly look cakey in those areas. But then again, there are ways to work around it by mixing it in with a facial oil or a moisturizer, so you know you can make it do what it do and try and make it work for you. But if you are oily, I think this is definitely going to be one of your best friends or foundations. So those guys are my favorite foundations. I absolutely love each and every single one of these that I've mentioned. They all hit key points for me, which is the shade is great, number one. Number two, they give me really good coverage. And third of all, they are super long wearing, all of them, which is exactly what I look for in a foundation. So I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you did like it, if you found it useful, if you've found a new foundation from this video, that would be amazing. Also comment down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more product reviews and tutorials and all sorts, you name it, it's all here. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Follow me on the gram at AnchalMUA, and I will see you all in my next video. Mwah. Bye.